Right.
He went to Muhlenberg Seminary, and there was so much messed up stuff going on at the seminary, he decided God was dead, and he joined the Freud and Jung religions. So I was raised by school psychologist,
right.
kindergarten to 8th grade, kid-loving guy, and people would say, what does your dad do? And I said, well, actually, he sits on the floor with bad little kids and plays trucks all day long.
Right.
And then he has to like fill out papers, and he doesn't like superintendents and principals, and the teachers are kind of fussy. He
does.
And he just cares about the kids.
Right.
You know, and like that was my life. And this is like his bookstore.
I'm actually kind of heading in that sort of direction myself.
Okay.
I went to school for photography.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'll start at the beginning.
It says photographer.
I went. First off, right out of high school, I went to Rutgers for marine biology. Realized through a series of experiences there, this is not my way. So I took a few years off, worked, then I went back to school for photography. I was like, this is what I really love. And now, in order to make money, which as a photographer is not so easy, I'm actually planning to go back to school to get certified as a teacher. But until then, I'm working with kids with autism. It just basically, I'm in the classroom with them all day, all year, and it's just, I didn't realize that was kind of my calling until I actually sat down and did it. But I really think that's it's awesome.
Make the sermon fall on you.
Yep.
So why don't you make a comment about what's going on here? I mean, we're just like soaking up this class is your turn. What's happening here?
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Alex.
Alex.
Yep.
So what's going on here?
People are finding wisdom. There's some good stuff out here that there was actually a lady who came earlier who's getting her PhD in clinical psychology.
Right.
Walked out of here with a box full of psychology books.
Well, describe to the viewer what has actually happened. I mean, from your perspective. Where did all these books come from?
These books came from someone who loved knowledge, and whether some people might say hoarder, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, I don't think so.
You created a library.
Exactly, you create a library. I do the same thing myself, and I think probably 50 years down the line I'll probably have something sort of like this. And it's a labor of love, you can tell. There's not junk, it's mostly it's just great stuff. And I think that the right person comes through here, they're going to find something that can inspire them somehow. And if one person does that, the whole thing's worth it.
And could you make that comment that you made before? What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Adam.
Adam was mentioning that he saw in here what?
Well, I felt like I was in the heart of the internet. Where,
in the heart of the internet.
Where there was more information that could possibly be ascertained. It just didn't, kind of everywhere you looked you felt like. But what's strange is that, and this is probably the thing that makes me think of that the most, is that by looking at a cover, you feel like you understand. You're like, oh, okay, there's one about meditation. And you suddenly feel like you know meditation, but I haven't read the book.
Right.
I don't know what's in it. And it almost made me feel as if, like, when I'm on the internet and I see a word, you almost feel like you know that thing. Yeah. I don't know it yet at all. I haven't looked at the book, I haven't read it, I haven't experienced it.
Right.
So you almost, because there's such an avalanche of it, you almost feel like your brain starts working differently, where you have to kind of keep up with it.
It's the contact high. And it's actually, I mean, my shtick is the mechanics of the spirit realm. You know, I mean, if we have a functional spirit realm around us and want to work with the writings that hold the predictions and the miracle of the New Testament, we're dealing with an uncountable number of spirit beings, and only 1/3 of them fell. So that means that, like, I mean, the word muse means spirit, and music is spirit-driven expression. You know, so when you're looking at the title, you're receiving the muse or the spirit of the entire book. It's like, saturate. I mean, and there's spirit beings, you know, that don't die. I mean, one of my favorite teachers is like, look, the spirit beings were before the human beings. Right. And they have watched over, you know, they watched your grandparents fade out and your parents rise up, and they're just, you know, it was cool you said marine science, because my birth dad, I met all these half brothers and sisters, and they're all performing artists and marine scientists.
Really?
Okay. I went to Stockton, and I studied. I had a dual major of performing arts and marine science.
Are you serious?
So, and people talk about genes and chemicals. Screw that stuff. There are spirits of light standing down the lineages of my dad's family that are all about singing and encouraging and dealing with water, you know, and irons.
Yep.
You know, it's crazy. I mean, it's inspiring. It's like, okay, you guys, you know, okay, you library spirits, do a good job around here.
Yep.
So this is actually, this is the stuff that filled my father's house.
Whoa.
Pull him that way. Pull him that way. Pull him that way.
Oh, they're pulling them in because it's rain. It's about to rain, I guess.
Yeah. Here, let me sort back this way.
Okay.
So we pulled about 30 bookcases out of the house, and the bookcases got stood up over here. And all of these books were moved in boxes, packed by teenagers who were, hi, hey, there's somebody in a box. You surprised me. What's your name again?
That's sweetie.
Noah. Hi. You fit very well in that box. I met this amazing person. We were singing songs in a house in Camden, and we were helping people move from one house to another house. And I told her daddy, whose name is Bryce, hey, if any of you youngsters around here that play around on the web want to list some cool stuff, I've got a house full of cool records and books, and I don't have time to list things on the web. And he said, I'd like to see what you got. And then he said, you know, I'd like to rent a truck and show up with a couple of guys and move everything you've got to a certain location. And this is the location. We're at the Circle of Hope Church, which is a ancient peace church, lineage church. It comes out of the Brethren Church from the German Lancaster County people. So they're peaceniks, and they're also kind of urban pioneer people. A lot of the people at Circle of Hope have actually chosen to move into places like Camden and Gloucester and be school teachers and stuff. And so that's the kind of environment that my dad was always hanging out in, which he was a Camden activist. He was always caring about the kids and the moms and the families and wanting to share toys and children's books and stuff like that. And so this guy, Bryce, just rolled up his sleeves and said, let's do this thing. I'm going to take it on. And I realized I need to put books in boxes. So I started getting people on the telephone saying, okay, any of you guys, you know, got kids that want to make some summer cash put in their pocket, fill boxes full of books and carry them up and downstairs. So when he showed up with the truck, we were ready. We were ready with mountains of boxes. And the stuff's starting to deplete a little bit, but I mean, they've actually skimmed through and found very, very valuable stuff that's worth listing on the web. Everything that you see sitting here is like sort of the extra stuff that's not over the top valuable, and everything's up for sale for $1. There's a bunch of audio equipment, some of which is pretty high quality, and so anyhow, this is like stage 1 miracle of, you know, blessing the 309 3rd Avenue house and trying to move on to the next square, the next era. Cool. Oh, and our church meets here in the former
I have to stay where the light.
Pensauken Fire Hall. And it's funny because we're standing in the area where the fire trucks used to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a double bay. This is for a hooker truck, ladder truck or something. And this library has filled a very large area. It is a mobile bookstore. So that's the quick overview. If only you could have seen the house with all this stuff stuffed into it. You couldn't get into most of the rooms. most of the rooms were impassable. Now, only a few of the rooms are impassable. And the basement. And there was a lot that was pitched out. A lot. Do you have anything to say? This is like hi to the...
I just think it's like a miracle. The way that David Stephen popped in while we were moving one day, helping some other friends move. And we struck it up, and he said, I got this house full of books, I want to use it for Jesus. And I was like, well, I'm into that. So we rented a truck, and like 6 truck trips later or something, we were like, what did we get ourselves into? But I was like, we got the space here, might as well use it. So pulled everything out, we've been making some sales, and everything that we're doing here, it's around a community, it's around what we're doing with Jesus. All the proceeds are being donated to Jesus' work in our communities. It's been really rad, like the last month or two, where we just said, you got that, I got this, let's go for it,
Yeah.
So it's just been crazy.
And it was truly miraculous, because out of this, there's even been a lot of miracles for me. I was actually groaning in my guts in tears for the better part of 5 months. How do I even begin with this house? And I've had people calling me saying, are you okay? And like they've walked through the house and like, are you trying to deal with this alone?
Yeah.
Are you all right? And I mean, I've had like all of my supply lines and friendships and family connections like sort of fizzle out in a lot of ways, and a lot of other people are far away. So, I mean, when God does a miracle, he does it like a shoot out of dry ground.
That's
like
right.
something out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like a shoot out, like a beautiful sapling coming out of a pure desert. So also were the coming of Messiah be.
That's right.
And then I come over to Circle of Hope Church at one point, slide in, sit down, and they're doing this like really great Native American worship music, which I'm actually hip to. So I'm like, this is really great. And there's some great vocals running. I'm kind of doing some backup vocals and some harmonizing. And I'm singing, and I'm singing in this position, and I turn my head, and I'm like, it's Bryce that's leading the vocals. And I'm like, holy crap. What's up with this? I'm paired up with the singing character as well. People are like, are you a musician? I'm like, I'm mainly a vocalist. I mean, I just like to bang out, and I can make some music behind the sound, the voice sound. So there's definitely a big friendship meld, and I discovered that he lives right behind this urban pioneer pastor guy, Nate Hultish, who's like the official head pastor dude around here, only he doesn't take on titles like that very heavily. And so like there's just all of these connections blossoming, and even a lot of the teenagers that came in and teamed up with us just really got touched with, they're like, are all these people your church friends? And I'm like, no, actually, you have no clue who these people are. Like, it's just the Spirit of God blending the community together. Yeah,
that's it. That's
it.
it.
It's wild what happened.
It just took a spark, and then everything went up. And I mean, the project is still going on. David and I have talked about plans for what doesn't sell, and there's thrift stores that we're connected to through the Mennonite Central Committee. Stuff could go that way.
And pan out to the neighborhood
through
here.
bars.
Come this way. See, this is the neighborhood that we're in. Is a perfect place to start loving kids and families. They've got this toy and clothing like chair thing where you can drop. I wanted to kind of get a
Well,
shot.
just so you understand what happens with the light, everything goes dark if I turn that way.
Yeah, keeping the light behind.
So I have to keep in the...
There's a lot of options for just like blessing the neighborhood. They've got like a toy and clothing exchange program where with your kids grow out of stuff, you can drop them off and pick up other things.
Yeah. There was just some people who came through today who the lady said, I actually came out for a stroller and a car seat, and I saw you had a book sale. They're like, oh yeah, we got strollers and car seats too. So we went to the basement and grabbed out a stroller and car seat.
And there's
she took them. I mean, it's free, It's
and there's a room full of kids stuff piling up at the house now.
Oh really?
So that should come over here too. Right. I mean, I'm talking about a room full. I'm starting to skim out the kids stuff.
We'll put it to good use. I mean, that's just sort of what this has been a way of just connecting and loving and trying to making the whole thing Jesus work? How can we further the kingdom of good in our region, in this neighborhood? And
the other element that's really important is that my dad has always been an extreme Camden activist, an extreme activist for the poorer peoples in Camden County, where I grew up. And like in the scriptures, it says God is not a God of the dead, God is a God of the living. You know, and the whole cloud of witnesses thing, and the whole reality that when my body dies, I am still going to be completely alive and completely conscious exactly as I am now, is one of the most inspiring and terrifying realities. That, like, when the body goes away, you are still you and 100% conscious. I mean, hearing people's stories about, like, you know, coming back from the dead or having, like, paradise or even edge of hell realities has really schooled me to understand that, like, my dad is fully aware of what's going on. You know, and it doesn't mean, like, that he can pray for us necessarily or something like that, but just to know that there's angels of light around my family, which have been dedicated to these neighborhoods and peoples, are continuing to make sure the business is getting done.
Carries on.
You know, I mean, I met this guy in Camden.
Yeah.
We met in Camden, not in Haddon Heights, not in a groovy little cafe. Yeah. We met working with a little Mennonite family, or, I mean, what's their affiliation?
Well, Sacred Heart Church in South Camden.
Peace Community.
Yeah, the Christian Catholic Workers Community in South Camden.
Yeah, and people were moving from one row house to another, and I'm like, I'm all about moving. Come on, more hands on moving day means more fun, and and I got to, like, sing songs for the kids.
Yeah.
So I'm singing for this
my
guy's.
Daughter knows it. Yeah.
I'm singing for this guy's kid, and then there's this woman sitting around, and she's like way pregnant, and she's all ready to have a baby, and it turns out his baby kid gets born the moment all the books come in.
Yeah.
At the same time, like the library bookstore is born, his kid is born at the same time.
Yeah.
So this recording is an important legacy.
Yeah, Jude's 2 months old, and like newborn, books, job, everything just went shoot. What were you saying? How's it go? If you're busy or if you need something done,
hire the busy person because the other sort of person can't manage to find any time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's Albert Hubbard.
We were just in it. We just went into it.
Yeah, and I was like, when I started picking up that he was about to have a baby, I was like, okay, is he making the wrong chess move here? Is this really the right move for peace in the family and changing the whole world? And I got to check in my spirit with, like, don't complain about my miracle. Right. I'm like, well, may it be a miracle for all of us, including the kid.
Well, it's been really life-giving for a lot of us. Like, I think a lot of us are like the parable where you find the guy's digging in the field and he finds a treasure, and then he sells everything he has and he buys the field because the treasure's in it. Like, I think a lot of it is just found, like, this is a treasure, and this is something that brings us a lot of joy. And when we're joyful and loving and being in the spirit, that's how we're going to love our neighborhood. So, like, the guys that I've been working with and my friends just going through this stuff, it's just like, wow, this is an amazing collection. And wow, we're right here on Marlton Pike in Kamsauk. And how does this all go together? How did this even happen? You know, but that's the sort of connections that have been happening because we've just, I think, been in a spirit of prayer and listening and ready to move with the next step, ready to take a step forward with whatever it might be. So you're into it, I'm into it.
And we can spend a lot of time worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow and how we're going to figure out the next steps.
Right.
And today has enough problems of its own, so we might as well rejoice and move on.
Yep. So
that's definitely that's what's been keeping me alive. Is like, okay, today is all I've got. I've got food, I'm comfortable, I'm scared, and I'm going to go forward scared and rejoicing.
Yep. So,
Man.
All right.
That's
Good.
what we got.
Thanks, Pete. Hey, y'all.
Peace.
All right.